Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Star Wars Lads. We've got for you our first predictions and speculation for the Acolyte. This will be for episode 3. We're going to talk about everything we think will happen in next episode. But before we do so, make sure you're hitting that like button. Really helps us out with the channel. Subscribe for more content just like this. We'll be doing predictions and speculation for every single episode of the Acolyte. So make sure if you like these videos, you subscribe to get the rest of them. Moving forward, comment below, let us know your predictions and speculation. And if you want to join us every week, we go live 7 p.m. Pacific right after the newest episode of The Acolyte airs. So if you'd like to join us, talk live, give us your review, hear our review, and give us your theories and predictions there in the live, make sure you join us there. It would be an awesome time to have you all join us for the entire run of The Acolyte. And if you're interested in supporting us, you can check out our Patreon and YouTube memberships. We do have a lot of perks over there that do relate to lives and stuff like that. So check out those as well. All right, let's get into our predictions for episode 3 of The Acolyte. The first 2 episodes of The Acolyte were fast-paced, very fast-paced, fast-paced to a fault in some ways, but they did leave a lot of questions. This is a murder mystery show. It's a mystery in general, a thriller. And with that comes a lot of questions about twists or possible flashbacks that we've seen. A lot of things from the trailers, like shots of Indara or Sol or Torben, that we have yet to see in the show, even though Torben and Indara are dead. So those flashback elements are coming. Do they happen next episode? Sanak, what do you think? Are we getting flashbacks next episode? Are we just continuing with this murder mystery? We know at the end of this last episode, we set it up to go to Kofar to see Kelnacca, our Wookiee Jedi. What do you think happens next episode?
Yeah, I think if we're going to have Acolyte continue to feel fresh and different, I think from the standard fare that we've been getting structurally with all these Disney Plus Star Wars shows, besides ironically what we got from the Book of Boba Fett, I would really, really appreciate if this would be a flashback heavy episode. And I think the ending of episode 2 really justifies it, especially since Osha and Mae finally get to see each other for the first time, and then Osha completely misses with her stun shots. She has a clear shot and everything, but once Mae says Oshi, right, and they're both like shocked that the other person is alive, right, and she lets Mae escape, and then she stares daggers at Master Soul. It really does feel like answers have to be given, or at least a version of the truth. I'm not saying something like Rashomon-esque, but at the very least, I'd like to see Master Soul recounting the events. There has been a lot of tension. Obviously, that first episode, Soul has to essentially believe that Osha is the person behind all these murders, that his former Padawan that he hasn't seen in 6 years is causing all this havoc and killing all these Jedi. But then once he's actually with her, we do see a lot of the tensions that he's still keeping about that failed apprenticeship. There is a lot of tension about how she even came into his apprenticeship, how she even came to the Jedi Order. Now I think you have to sit with it too, because Osha was already building into a lot of this frustrating conflict with Soul throughout a lot of the second half of the second episode. And I think this would be the right place to at least give his version of the events, what he saw, what he knew was happening. I think that would be the smartest choice. Now, do I think it'll all happen, especially after that tag with Kelnacca? I don't know, but maybe it's a good thing to recount since we're gonna probably have Soul ignore, I think, the advice of Vernestra to meet with the council, or even if he is, it won't be something super long lived because maybe immediately May or someone else is sighted on the planet that Kelnacca is on and forces them to act quickly instead of dealing with the next steps and being measured and thoughtful like Vernestra is planning. So I think either through that situation of dealing with the consequences of what happened in these first 2 episodes between that master and apprentice relationship, or dealing with the chance that another of these 4 identified Jedi from 16 years ago in our life is at risk and they have to go make a move. And even if that's not what the council is saying, I think the flashback comes out of that regardless. It could be a nice slow paced one. It could be something intercutting scenes that we have with Kelnacca. But I think that is generally the direction I'm wanting to go at. And especially since it made such an emphasis on saying Osha's last name is Osha Anasea, and we know that the mother Anasea leader of the witch. We need to see something about that. We know that Osha and Mae have two moms, so I'm very curious to see who the other figure is outside of this Anase, or if Anase is just like a tribe name of sorts. We know whatever is happening there from the trailers is quite bombastic. We'll see a younger Torben. We'll definitely get to see Master Indaro once more in a younger soul. We'll get to see these young actresses that they have for the young main, young Osha. So I really do think episode 3 is the right place to put it. I think once you push it back, you'd have to start cutting it up too much. And I think that's a little hard to keep track of episode by episode when you're trying to keep progressing this murder mystery and the intrigue of the storyline that we've been presented with in the real time events.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think with episode 3 being the bit longer one out of the next two, we know that from the press screenings, this one is a bit longer than episode 4. With that being the case, I do think there's more room for story. My biggest complaint through the first 2 episodes was the lack of world building and the lack of focus on building these characters, building the story out, what is going on in these characters' heads and the emotions around it. It is just almost too quick with the lengths of these episodes. This one's not really going to help. It's still a short episode, but hopefully having some time to reflect on what's gone on. The first 2 episodes are so fast, so much happens that it would be nice to at least kind of catch up and see how that actually relates to our characters. Knowing that Mae is alive, let's see some actual reaction to Soul, before he doesn't necessarily truly believe it until that confrontation happens. And seeing that confrontation, we don't get to hear what he's thinking after that. So let's see how that plays on his psyche. How does that play on the larger impact and implications on what these Jedi did? Because the Jedi aren't going to be faultless in this. There's going to be somewhere in the middle. And you didn't say Rashomon, but I'll say Rashomon. I think this is something Leslie Headland's talked a lot about her influence from Rian Johnson and The Last Jedi. His obviously Rashomon take on Kylo Ren versus Luke, that conflict and how that relationship soured. I think we're getting that kind of thing here where we're going to see it from multiple different perspectives. The Jedi who thought they were doing the right thing, the witches who thought they were doing the right thing, and ultimately the victims are Mae and Osha. And the Anastasia thing too, I was going to bring up because that's a piece of information that's glossed over very quickly in the first episode, but it is something really important considering these witches were originally billed as our main villain for the story. It doesn't seem that way. It seems like they are going to be this villain from the past that leaves an impact on these two main twins and how they initially become who they are in this show and how they further their goals, I guess, or destinies in the Force, if you will, by the end of the show. As for the Sith Lord as well, or whoever this is, we don't necessarily know if this is an actual Sith. There's no reference to Sith whatsoever in the first 2 episodes, so we don't know if this guy is Sith. We also don't know if he is Sith, if he's the apprentice or the master. I think a lot of us are leaning towards the apprentice. A lot of hope out there that Tenebris is still around in this time period. But I think more information on this master, whether it comes from Kamir and Mae more directly and less from actually seeing this guy, but I think something like that needs to play. What has this guy done to kind of make Mae in some ways think that Osha might have been dead? We get that kind of shock and surprise on her face when she sees Osha, and in a lot of ways it is a big reveal for her too. It's not like she's been going around her whole life going, yeah, she's alive and she's over there. It's a big moment for her. So how does that play on what she's doing, what she's convinced is right to kill these Jedi and get her revenge? How does that play on Osha, who I personally think is going to start walking down a darker and darker path through the show? I wouldn't be surprised if by the end we get Osha, taking that mantle from Mae. But I think there's going to be that kind of gray area that we're going to start to see unfold here. Kelnacca, unfortunately, I think is going to die in this episode, and we're going to lead towards that ultimate reveal. I do think episode 4 is going to be that turning point episode. This episode will be kind of creeping towards that turning point, and I think the big action will be the Kelnacca versus Mae fight. And ultimately, that's going to kind of set up what is going to happen and as we turn the page after 4 and get that second half of the season, that second half that nobody has seen yet. I think that's an important place to take this, especially when you have a show, a murder mystery show, a twist-based show, right? There's going to be twists and turns. Characters are going to die that you don't expect, like we've already seen. Things are going to happen that you don't expect. And so it makes it a tough one to predict, especially after only 2 episodes, because we don't have too much to base the structure of the entire show on. But I do think that following through with at least the death of Kelnacca, or at the very least, a big fight with Kelnacca, something that leaves him injured, maybe something that makes Mae think she actually took him out. A Wookiee's not necessarily the best one to go against if you're trying to kill somebody without a weapon, but we'll see if that's what her intentions are. She tries to do that against Soul, but I do think we see the Jedi progress to Kofar. We've seen a lot of those shots of them in the jungle in the trailers. If that's this episode, maybe, but I think a lot of that action, the action we see against the red lightsaber wielder, that's coming in the next episode. But I do hope we at very least get a tag or something related to this Darksider, because the first tag was so strange and out of place that hopefully there's a bit more that leads up to who this guy's identity is and why it's important that we keep him a mystery. So thank you for watching our predictions and speculation about episode 3 of The Acolyte. Make sure you leave us your predictions in the comments below. Make sure you like the video if you haven't. Subscribe to the channel for predictions for episodes 4 through 8 as well. And join us live every single week to talk about The Acolyte. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we will see you all next time.